Dan, what have you been working on?
Everything. Just
Everything.
been, I shouldn't say everything. Always got a lot of things going on. Trying to stay pretty focused on a couple of main tasks. Obviously, I've got Gearbunch, and we just got a great new licensing agreement with multiple bands. A lot of iconic bands like Motley Crue and Slayer and Def Leppard, Alice Cooper. All the ones that were around when, oh man, even before I was born, and just iconic with massive fan bases, which is great. And um, still still growing elite brands massively, which is great. So running meta ads, so Facebook and Instagram, and email marketing for e-commerce brands. So that's going great as well. So that's what I've been working on. Outside of that, trying to just stay organised. I made myself a promise at the beginning of this year to shoot a video every day for my socials, and so far I'm up to video 39, so I'm on track. I haven't missed a
It's a
day yet.
challenge. So
Oh,
what's Gearbunch?
so Gearbunch is a business that I started back in 2016, and it is fitness apparel, primarily leggings and capris, sports bras, but basically print on demand based out of the US and Europe, where we just started designing and selling leggings that you couldn't walk into the store and get. So, gone are the block colours and black and things along those lines. And we weren't trying to compete with mainstream. We just found this good quality product that we can do print on demand with and allow people to express their personalities or their passions or interests. And it just took off because you just couldn't get it anywhere else. And that's still been going since then. I think we're in our eighth year now. And
When was that?
recently,
2016.
end of 2016, yeah. So,
Gotcha. And what were you doing before that? So print on demand, for anybody that's listening and doesn't know what that is, that's literally where you come up with the design, you find a supplier that effectively prints it and sends it straight to your customer. So you're left to work on the marketing, the designs,
yeah,
and getting it in front of people. And then the supplier gets it to your customers, which is really
yep.
cool. So
And so,
what were you
yeah,
doing before Gearbunch?
uh, I was trying a lot of different things online. Sort of a long story, but before Gearbunch, I was trying a lot of things online, trying to figure out a way to make a living, and came across a business model called Teespring, which is print on demand t-shirts. And I think this sort of, they might not have been the first, but they were the first big player in the game. And that was introduced to
In
me by
internet
one of my
marketing, yeah.
mentors. I think they're called Spring now. It was introduced to me by one of my mentors called Donald Wilson. He got me into it, and it just took off. And I found it extremely easy to be able to use Facebook ads to sell products. And this was back in about 2015, 2014, 2015. And it was from the success there that I was having that Teespring invited me to come and speak at their conferences. And when they bought out another business based in Europe called Fabrily, and to talk about how I was running Facebook ads. At the time, I thought I was doing what everyone was doing, but it wasn't. It was a bit different. And that sort of goes, that sort of led to an opportunity where this other company, Printful, who does the leggings for us now, approached me and said, "Hey, we know you're doing really well with shirts. Um, we've just developed this new print on demand product. Do you want to would you like to test it for us?" And we did, and it just took off. So we moved away from shirts, concentrated on the fitness apparel like leggings and capris. And now we're going full circle. We've gone back to leggings for these bands, but also they want us to do the shirts and hoodies and long sleeve shirts and wall art and all sorts of stuff with them, which is
Yeah,
fantastic.
nice. So
Yes.
when you were doing Teespring, like what you must have been getting some success to go, well, I'm going to pivot into something that's probably got a little bit more money in it. What sort of designs were you doing?
It
So on
wasn't. It
shirts,
wasn't
what
so
was it?
much the money. So it was not the money that was the motivator to move into Teespring, like the margins. It was a point of difference. The mark I'd been doing it for maybe 3 years, and like everyone was having a crack at it. It was
What sort of
getting
money were you making?
uh on Teespring, maybe 15 to 20 grand a month.
Yeah.
On average. Some months you'd get something go viral that'd go crazy. Other months it'd be a bit quiet. But we're just constantly launching I had different niches that I was in. I was in the Irish American niche, the nurse niche, bikers.
What sort of phrases what were the designs on the shirts? Like, to connect with those niches must have been pretty interesting.
Yeah, look, the Irish American were probably the easiest. It was more around drinking and swearing. You've
Which you do well.
I do fucking swear a lot. And the leprechauns, the fighting Irish. It's not Irish people probably would have disliked it, but Irish Americans loved it. They're iconic over there. They've got football teams with them as mascots. Basketball teams, sporting teams everywhere over there. So it worked really well. The biker stuff worked well. It was, always a play on what was happening in the industry, about not being mainstream, not being accepted. And,
yeah.
Do
you remember any of your designs, like your better ones? Like, were they funny or just statement based, or what were they?
Well, the nurse one, the one that did really well for a while there. Oh, geez, I can't even remember. Far out. I'm actually having a memory blank about some different phrases. We did a lot with. There was one, I think it was like cute enough to stop your heart, smart enough to restart it. Like that was
yeah. I haven't seen that one for a while now. I remember seeing that everywhere.
That was everywhere for a long time.
Time to bring it back.
There's a lot based around jobs, about their job, their field of work being better than others, and it was it was so long ago, and there was so many of them, and I feel really bad that I can't remember them off the top of my head now. But it's just it was anything and everything, and it was really a volume game where it was probably like 8 out of every 10 designs we put up failed, but those 2 that did stick did really well, and it was a case of just once you got a couple of winners, you just kept scaling and scaling and scaling until they died out. But the reason I was interested in moving away from that model is, 1, it was getting saturated. 2, I was building someone else's business. I was like a glorified affiliate marketer where if I took a break and I didn't run ads, it didn't sell. I didn't own an email list. I didn't own the website. I didn't have any repeat customers because I couldn't remarket to them. When the opportunity came up with the leggings, and I had a website where I was just testing a lot of different products anyhow. That's why it was called Gearbunch to start with. It's not a play on anything to do with leggings. It was just a bunch of gear that I was trying to get to work to create my own brand, my own website, my own audience, my own lists, and just be able to build a business, build a brand for myself.
And you crushed it.
We did.
I remember that month that you jumped over, because we were all looking for the same sort of thing that were involved with Teespring and whatnot. You jumped on before me. I wasn't until about March the following year. But what was that first month like when you did find what it was that sold? What did you end up doing?
The first month in business of Gearbunch, we did 250,000 US.
Insane.
It was insane. We went from like starting, and within 2 weeks we were doing $10,000 days, which was just unheard of. We ended up doing $4.5 million in the first year, which was just ridiculous. It was incredible.
Good on you.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, it's been an up and down roller coaster since then. It's business and COVID and your supply chain getting shut down and lots of different things. And that's why I started to diversify a little way back, was because I realised that having all my eggs in one basket it carries a lot of risk, and it was hard work, especially when times did get tougher. Competition increased, COVID hit, and our facilities got totally shut down. And because we're print on demand, we're not holding any stock, so it was a non-essential business in the States, and we got absolutely slammed. We actually couldn't sell anything for months because the state governments over there just shut them down. And it was so hard for us to do anything. And then even when they did open, USPS or, the postal services over there had interrupted service as well. And it was just, we started getting absolutely slammed in reviews because it was taking so long for products to get to people. So, it was a real eye-opener, and I was fortunate enough to get some good advice before COVID even hit to look at diversifying. And that's what I did. And the things that I did really well was Facebook and Instagram ads and email marketing. We did it really well in-house. We had a team and for Gearbunch doing it. So, and people would quite often ask me, can you help us with us? Can you do this? Can you do that? And eventually I thought, you know what, we probably can. So we did. And started off just offering email because at the time I decided to start the agency, which was about 4 years ago. We were coming into that iOS 14 update where we knew the Pixel was not going to be as effective as it was. Apple was going to bring in all these privacy changes, so I just thought, well, I'm not real comfortable in running Facebook ads for other people at the moment until we get a bit of stability and consistency back, because fundamentally, if you want to help people, you don't want to be losing them money. You don't want to be going to them with excuses. So email was a system and a structure we knew would work, and we focused on that to start with. And then eventually, now that we've seen some stability back with meta advertising, we're now offering that, and that's been really picked up well. And that was probably the hard part for me, is that I'm actually one of Meta's global trainers, so I got picked up as part of doing what I do for Gearbunch. They invited me to a business council, and then at that business council, they started getting me to train the other businesses there, and then eventually they said, hey, possibly would you like to be one of our trainers? And I was like, yeah, fantastic. So I do that, and then I would come off stage and people go, can you do the Facebook ads for us? And I'd be like, no, I'm not doing them. And because I just couldn't guarantee this consistency for them. And I just don't want to be taking money off businesses and not being able to guarantee, or not guarantee, but be confident in offering them a decent return. So I was always happy to help them in terms of, pointing them in the right direction, but I didn't want to fully take it over. And it's only now in the last 12 months that we've seen that stability, that we're actually seeing with our systems really good growth for brands. And the way we set our systems up now, it has a fail-safe that it actually complements and boosts your Google ads and also your email marketing efforts through Klaviyo, which is sort of where we're at.
Yeah, wow. So going back through that COVID where it got pretty difficult and you weren't selling, how did you overcome that? Because I think people don't realize that, when you're you go from side hustle into serious business, you hit like that, all of a sudden your income, your livelihood's on the line. So how did you manage that? Because mentally, business is one thing, like having that stability there, but the impact it has onto you mentally, particularly when you've got a family and you've got kids to feed and a house to run and all that kind of stuff. How do you come through that?
It was pretty difficult. As I said, I had started the agency pre-COVID, so that it was almost like a side hustle to Gearbunch. And I was fortunate, as I said, I got that advice to diversify before COVID hit. So I had about 4 or 5 clients there on the side that in the end, it didn't become my side hustle. It became the way I supported my family. For those that don't know, I'm married, I've got 3 kids, I've got the usual expenses that people have in life. You get mortgages, you've got bills to pay, you've got mouths to feed, all those sorts of things. So to see your primary source of income get shut down, and it's beyond your control, it's not something you could ever prepare for, it's not something that you could have had a contingency plan for. Probably the only thing that in hindsight I could have done better was cash flow planning, but I never expected COVID to hit the way it did. Had to lay staff off, which was really hard because they'd been years.
When you did get back online and you had that access to your products again, did it take off? Because that through that period we seemed to hit like a purple patch where we went ballistic.
No, I definitely didn't, and I think it was about a consistency thing. So a lot of brands online, we survive on on consistency and being front of mind to people. So when you disappear for a period of time, they were going elsewhere. And there were other brands or competitors that could, they were holding stock they could sustain during that period. So we lost a lot of our repeat customers during that time. And honestly, I think I lost a lot of confidence because of that. When we did come back, we started getting these problems with delivery, and you should have seen Trustpilot at the time. And for those that don't know, Trustpilot's a worldwide review service, and you've got no control over moderation or anything on it. And we were just getting absolutely hammered, and it was really hard. Like, I actually considered stopping doing it for a while and just focusing on the agency and the training that I'd been doing for Meta. But I'm glad I didn't. And, we're on the up again now. But, yeah, I lost a lot of momentum. There was no consistency. I lost a lot of confidence in it. And on top of that, Facebook ads, which was my bread and butter, just wasn't working the way that it used to. Yeah. So I did find that I trimmed a lot of the fat off it. I'd had to let a lot of staff go during COVID because I had no work for them because there was no sales coming in. But in that time, trimmed a lot of the fat and concentrated on a lot of other components of the business which could be improved on, which when you're in this constant growth stage, you tend to overlook or you tend to not get at. It's always something that you've got on your list to do, but you never get at it. So we worked on all that and look, we're coming out the other side. It's taken us longer than probably other businesses because, motivation-wise, I just wasn't there. But, now we're back and it's getting back to where it should be.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the kids there. So how old are they?
Now they're 17, 15 and 11.
Mate, it goes so quick. And I would say this, like the amount of people I speak to is ridiculous. But one of the things that we've got a common trait is how fast time goes when you have kids. So you're into your football with them. Do you help out, coach, anything like that with them?
I still coach my oldest boy in his under 18s. I've coached him on and off at various times through juniors, both of them. But it's every year since they were little boys, like 6 years old, I've coached one of them growing up. So I'd like to stay fit and healthy and be able to still run around with them. We still play touch football together, but, and I coach them playing rugby league. And I still
You're president for a bit, weren't you?
I was for the junior club for a little bit. And that's a whole nother story. That is, I tell you what, kids sports, it's more about...
Did you enjoy it?
No.
Really?
Absolutely not. And I'd never do it again. It was more.
I loved it when I was the president of the Wildcats in Nambour, but I was there for like 12 months and I had a plan, and that was to firstly bring it back to town, raise some money, change the strip, get the kids back in so the businesses in town could benefit. Yep. So I tried to remove myself from the parents because, what I'm sure you're about to share with me is the reason why.
You end up parenting the parents and you actually get to spend no time with the kids. The parents are the hardest work in junior sport, and I'll never do it again. And I take my hat off to anyone that does do it because there was just no fun in it, and it was just not something that I want to put myself through again. Like I took it on to help the kids, and at the end of the day, I'm indirectly helping the kids by getting the parents to do the right thing. And rugby league's it's full of people from all different socioeconomic levels and levels of education, and it's hard work. It's hard work.
Yeah. So what did you do before all this? Like, how did you find yourself online?
So when I was 19, just not long out of high school, about 18 months out of high school, I went to the police academy. I always wanted to be a police officer, and loved it, and was good at it. End up being in there for 17 years, and end up being medically retired. I'd been in homicide for a while. I was a detective sergeant in homicide and ended up getting medically retired due to my mental health. I just had too many bad days at work and, just couldn't deal with it anymore. I didn't know it at the time, but I wasn't a very nice person to be around. I didn't have a whole lot of empathy left for people. You know, when you tend to only deal with really horrible people and really horrible situations, your perception of reality becomes skewed in that, you know, that becomes your normal and everything else is pretty insignificant, which is unfair to your kids and your partner and, you know, your family, because they'll mention problems they've got, but it pales into nothing compared to, you know, what you're dealing with day to day. So I had no empathy for them. I didn't know it at the time. And,
wow.
I ended up getting medically retired. And that was
How did you come to realize that you didn't have empathy with the family? Did you, because you could have gone down that path where it just never flipped in your mind that you were like that. What happened for you to go, actually, I need to work on a bit of myself right here?
Yeah, so one day I was due to start work at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I hopped in my car to drive to go pick up my son from school. He was in like grade one, little boy, and a friend of ours had come over to visit. We had a double driveway out the front, and I was in the garage. And my friend said to me, "Do you need me to move my car?" And I looked at it and I said, "No, it's far enough across. Like I can get out." No dramas at all. I said to reverse straight back. She was parked way over to one side, and it was no dramas for me to get my car out. So I hopped in the car and I started reversing, and then I realised that my car wasn't moving. And I looked over my shoulder because I was accelerating, the car wasn't moving. I looked over my shoulder and I realised that I'd driven into and pushed her car. And I have no memory of doing that. So I just stopped the car. I had to pull the car forward and I hopped out and I said, "I don't know what's just happened, but I've just run into your car. I don't even remember reversing into it. I just remember the car. I sort of, my first memory is I started the car. My next memory is I can't move the car." And thankfully that happened in my driveway, and I damaged my own car. I damaged my friend's car, obviously, but that's what, you know, and it's not a great situation. But what actually happened was I just had, you know, it was just too much. It was an overload. It was called a psychiatric schism or something, where it's basically I've just got too much going on and your body just goes, you know what, you can just have a break, and you just have this moment in time where you black out. And
it's in the car, of course. Like, you couldn't be on the couch or in bed.
Well, I actually think it's probably fortunate that it was in my own driveway with a parked car. If that I was going to school to pick up my little boy, you know, everyone knows when you drive around schools, there's kids everywhere, there's people driving everywhere, little kids run out on the road. You know, imagine if that happened out the front of the school, and it would have been horrendous. And I don't even want to think about it. But all I did was damage two cars. But that was enough for my wife, who was also a police officer, to say to me, "You know what? You're in charge of people. You can't go to work not knowing what just happened and be there making decisions for other people." And that was I never went back to work again. I went and saw the doctor, and the doctor said, "Look, you can't, I'm not going to say that you're going to be able to go back to work." And that just started the cycle of trying to figure out what was wrong, and years later. And I actually come good. But as a result of that, I got medically retired from the police.
What year was that?
2015.
Really? Because I thought we connected way back. You must have been still in the force when, like, I had my original e-commerce business, and you had like a Facebook page that was, I can't even remember what it was, but
it was No Excuse Fitness. So
that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little side gig that I had where I used to travel a lot for work. I used to get deployed to different areas to work on cases, and you'd go for 10 days at a time, and then you'd come back for your 4 days off and go back for 10. And traditionally, detectives used to just go to the pub or the bar after work. And I sort of fell into that habit, and I was like, no, I don't want to do this. Like, this isn't me. And, you know, it's not a good path to go down. So I was always into my fitness and my health, and I just started training after work. They were like, "You want to come to the pub?" I'm like, "No, I'm going to go to the gym, going to go for a run. I'm going to do this training, do that training." And then slowly these other guys started coming with me. And a mate of mine said, who was interested in online stuff, he said, you should start a blog and just blog what you're doing so that when we're not with you or, people that don't know you, they can just follow along with whatever it is you did the day before. So I started doing that. I had a friend of mine who had been in the police, Glenn Wilson, who you know. I rang him. I said, how do I start a blog? And he was great. He helped me set up everything. So this was just a side gig, and I'd work on it while I was away. I wouldn't work on it when I was back home. And I'd do blog posts and of my training, or I'd do, little opinion articles about everything, different kinds of training.
When was this? Like, what sort of year can you remember?
2011, I started it. Yeah, so I started it as a bit of a side gig, and it just blew up. I was getting like 300,000 people to the website a month, but I was not monetizing it whatsoever. Yeah. And it wasn't until I started to do a little bit of AdWords and things like that, and I thought, I wonder if I can make a bit of a side gig out of this, that I got introduced to Donald Wilson, who then said to me, hey, why don't you look at this business model and you can sell fitness apparel to like singlets and shirts and stuff to your audience. So I did that. Then I started doing some Facebook ads from that. Then when I ended up...
Hang on. What sort of money were you making with just the blog with organic traffic, like with shirts?
Maybe $5,000 a month.
That's pretty cool. Like, considering like before that, with AdSense, were you making money before you got into shirts? Or...
I was making $300 a month on AdSense with that amount.
So it was like this. You were seeing success coming through, and it was enough to obviously keep you at it.
Yeah, that's really cool. But it was more that I'm a very habit-based person, and once I start, I don't want to stop. And once I got more of a rush out of the traffic and the people reading it than monetizing it.
Pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah, it was very cool because I'm not a PT, I'm not anything, and I never claimed to be. I was just,
boring copper.
I was a shift working.
And then you got 500,000 people wanting to listen to you.
Yeah, and I say that to them. I'm like, that was the thing. The no excuse fitness is that I'm a shift working father. I was in my 30s at the time. I'm like, if I can do it, you can do it. There's no excuses. Because I would show them that I'd just go down to the local park and do a bodyweight workout. You didn't need a fancy gym. I trained in my garage at home. I didn't even have a gym membership because it was easier when you had kids to just walk out to the garage at night when they're in bed and train in the garage. So that's where No Excuse Fitness came from. And, it was when I got medically retired, obviously that still existed. And I thought, like, I had nothing. I had no trade like you had. I'd never been to university. I had no fancy background in marketing or anything to do with technology. Everything I did, I just taught myself from online, and some really kind people, especially Glenn Wilson. He's like my mentor, like my ultimate mentor, and we do a lot together now. And met people like you along the way, Sahel, like all these Aussie guys, and then I started getting introduced to the American guys through coming and delivering later on. But before I got to that point, when I got medically retired, I was really, really stressed and really embarrassed that I got medically retired. It's a real, when you have a career of you being the one that gets called to help people and you're now the one that needs help, it's pretty humbling and you feel pretty embarrassed by it, you feel pretty weak. I know that's bullshit now, but at the time, that's how you've been trained. It's
the story we tell ourselves too, and I don't think that gets enough. I completely get it. It makes so much sense.
Yeah.
For you to actually rationalize that in that time, it's a pretty difficult shift that you'd have to make.
Well, I couldn't, because from a very young age, from the age of 19, I was the person that helped people. When people were in trouble, they'd call me and I would come and help. And now
you still feel that duty,
yeah, I definitely do. I'll still step in when I see something happening, around me now. Or I still feel, which is what's drawn me to becoming more in the public eye, is that I like helping people first. The clients and the income that you earn is a byproduct of helping people. If you're not helping people, you're not going to have long-term relationships. You might make a few dollars here and there, but at the end of the day, if what you're doing isn't helping people, in whether it's a business capacity, personal capacity, whatever it is, you're not going to be able to make a career out of it. You just, there's no longevity in it. And people can argue what you want, but that's my experience. with it. And that's why I got back into, you know, I was happy to become a trainer for Meta. I speak at a lot of events. I love doing podcasts. And that's because somewhere, somehow, if it possibly helps a person, then that's great. And I think that's when I stripped it all back, when people ask me, do you miss being in the police? I was like, yeah, I miss, there's bits and pieces that I miss. There's a lot of good times there. There was also a lot of bad times, as you'd expect. But probably the thing that I miss, the two things I miss the most is the camaraderie, like the people that you work with, and the altruistic side where you're helping people. And that part I didn't realise at the time, because it sounds a bit, I'll use an Australian term, it sounds a bit wanky. If when you're a homicide detective, like, oh, what do you like doing this? Yeah, well, because I like helping people. Like, it's not what you would say, but deep down, it's actually what most of us feel. You don't become police because some people are egomaniacs and they become police because they like, the power or the notoriety that comes with it. But genuinely, a lot of the people in there are good people, and they just want to help other people. However, in whatever form that is, in the different role that they have.
I certainly grew up with a hell of a lot of respect for police, and that's not because I had trouble with them. It's because we owned a caravan park or a trailer park, and we used to have the boys in blue out there effectively weekly. So we'd be on first name basis with the guys that come around, and it was really cool because it was just like that connection. And we saw what sort of work just in that capacity that those guys were doing. So I think that next level where you're at in homicide, I mean, that's probably a podcast in itself, just talking about the things that you go through there. So,
without a doubt. And, but that's what led me down the path of looking more into the online marketing, is that I came to this realization that there's only so many t-shirts or hoodies or singlets or tank tops that I can sell to my audience on No Excuse Fitness. What I did find is that I was really good at Facebook ads. I didn't know that I was good at Facebook ads. I thought everyone was doing what I was doing. But I found that I had this great ability to find people using, at that time, there was a hell of a lot more access to different details about people on Facebook. There are a lot more restrictions now due to privacy changes. But I'd spent a career of finding people who didn't want to be found. And I say this a bit, and it's the truth. I mean, there's no incentive for me to find someone when I'm a detective. The only thing that's going to happen usually at that level is you're going to jail. It's not a good outcome. So you're going to do everything you can to avoid being found by me. But so I developed a really good skill set and a really, good methodologies to be able to find people in different ways. So here I am now on an online platform where I'm trying to find people to sell products to, and these people are telling me everything, absolutely everything, from the fact that they're pregnant, their dog name, what they're at for dinner, what their favourite band is, what TV
relationship complicated,
relationship complicated, School of Hard Knocks, all the bullshit that people put on there. I shouldn't say bullshit. It's a lot of social sharing, and the end result is that when I found these people, they weren't unhappy or angry that I found them like my past clients were.
Yeah.
They were actually happy because
they're throwing money at you.
They were buying things off me because I was putting products in front of them that they actually liked, needed, or wanted. And
they're like, "What? I'm a son of arthritis. I'm in the ibuprofen chapter."
Yeah,
that was one of your shirts.
Yeah, so
no, I've got a medical problem.
Yeah, so like they just, it was easy. And, some of the stuff that I was doing it became pretty mainstream because I'd get up on stage and talk about how I was targeting these people or how I was finding these people. And then, it wasn't until I started talking about it at conferences that people were like, we've never thought about doing it that way. Or, how did you figure that out? And I was like, well, I thought everyone was doing it. And that it was actually bamboozling to me that they wanted me to talk on stage to start with. So, you know, when you're a copper, when you're a police officer, to try and get an interstate trip to go and do something that's work related, it's like pulling teeth. And you know, we're talking about $200 flights and maybe $200 at a hotel overnight. You know, it's not big money, but to
Mm.
get approval to do that was hard as so hard.
See, I think going back to what you were just saying there, like you didn't realize that people didn't know this. It's that out of the box thinking, and I think you mentioned it earlier about not having a trade or any tertiary or whatever behind you. But I think that's what ultimately makes you successful in business, and that's that curiosity to find out how do you do that, like,
Yeah.
and be willing to do stuff differently.
Well, it
Um,
was, yeah, it was, I think it was just different ways to find people is what I found was the most exciting thing that I had going. So here's an example. So I was sitting in, I was delivering some training to one of the business councils for Meta. And unbeknownst to me, they had three of their very high up executives from San Francisco sitting in the back of the room. I had no idea who they were. Hadn't met them. They came in and I was there talking. And I was teaching the businesses about this strategy that I developed to get people engaged with Gearbunch on Messenger by putting a quiz in front of them that I created through ManyChat. So I would get them engaged with me because I knew that there was Facebook ads for Messenger, but no one was using them to sell anything. So what I would do is I would engage 10,000 people on ManyChat as an example. Then I'd have an audience of 10,000 people that I could target on Messenger with an ad, and I would put an offer in front of them. And it would convert like, I think it was between 33 and 35 ROAS. And I'm talking like I was pouring thousands of dollars into it. And after that talk, one of the executives from Facebook come up and said, "How did you think to do that?" And I said, "Well, no one else is doing it." And I thought, if they're engaged with me and they've been through this quiz process with me, and it was just a quiz on like yoga, like how well do you know your yoga poses? How much of an expert yogi are you? And I'd engage with them, and then the ad would come across as a thank you for taking the quiz, and it would look organic. And it was like I was personally messaging 10,000 people and they would buy. They would buy in the tens of thousands of dollars worth. And he said, "That's not what the system's designed for." And I said, "Oh, I don't know what it's designed for. Like, I hadn't really thought about it." He said, "We designed that." He was part of the team that was overseeing the design of Messenger advertising. And he said it was designed to engage people on Messenger, to engage, bricks and mortar businesses on Messenger to offer
get them in
support
store.
or talk about trading hours or locations and things like that. It was a personal channel. It wasn't designed to be commercialized like that. And I said, "Well, it works." So that's the
Thank you.
sort of, yeah, I said, "Thank
You
you."
were like, thank you.
Unfortunately, that little nugget won't work anymore because somehow
No.
there is a bazillion AI bots out there messaging pages every day saying your account's about to be shut down,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's
It's
just
ridiculous. But I
it's
think this again goes back to that willingness to think outside the box. It's like, okay, there's a new tool, and every time there seems to be a new tool, there's new opportunity
there is.
because the platforms or whatever it is are pushing it. So it's like, how can I use this in a way that's going to benefit the business or yourself?
Yeah,
It's
100%.
pretty
And look,
interesting.
all those opportunities are always going to come up. I think
Mhm.
TikTok Shops is probably the newest one, the newest craze that everyone will jump on. It's there. I think meta advertising is going to take off again this year. Like, it's just they've seemed to have corrected the ship where in the past they sort of got it right and then it'd sort of skew off again and then come back and skew off again. But we're getting really consistent results for the first time that we have in a long time.
Love it.
Um,
That's good
uh,
news. I've got another business. Well, my wife, Carly, she's we've got something in the works at the moment where we're going to be using a lot of Facebook advertising again. So we're excited for that.
yeah,
But
yeah,
that's good to
and
hear.
it's different now though. So don't try and for those that have run Facebook ads before, don't try and run them like you ran them 5 years ago. Don't try and run them like you ran them 2 years ago. Our users are really savvy now, and there's all AI and Advantage Plus and things along those lines. It's great, but we still need to remember that there's users at the other end of the devices. So we spend a lot of time, not a lot of money, but a lot of time, because it's very cheap to do, creating awareness and engagement with the brand, and then utilize those custom audiences that we make based on those users' actions, either on the Meta platform or on our website or on our emails, or even within Google Ads. We utilize those custom audiences then to convert them. There's a lot more choice out there now, especially post-COVID. There's a lot more online businesses. Users are a lot more savvy on the platform. They know what an ad is now. They're not, if they see an ad, they're going to go past it. If they see something as part of my strategy, I replicate what influencers do with our brands, and they engage with that, because there's no sell. But what we're doing is we're building brand recognition, trust, awareness, and engagement. Then we go back at them later.
It's a KLT factor all over again, the know, like, trust.
Exactly.
Yeah, nice.
It's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Because what made me think of it is that when we started, there was that rule of 7 in marketing, traditional marketing, that someone had to have 7 points of contact with you to build trust on average. But this came about pre-social media days, like way before the internet, even, the rule of 7. So we worked on that rule of 7. So you could do direct to consumer, you could do DTC and just put an ad up in front of them and convert them, because you'd have that, they'd see the ad a couple of times, and then if they didn't convert on that, we'd remarket to them a couple of times, and then they'd go to the website, or they might Google us, and then maybe they'd get an email and they'd convert. So we hit those 7 points. Now with the advent of so many more social media networks, the latest figures I heard, and it could be even more, is you needed 17 touch points. Now, how can you have 17 touch points with someone when you're running purchase conversion campaigns and still be cost effective and get that cost per acquisition? You can't. Unless you've got a viral or a really cheap product, even then it's going to be hard. If it's an impulse buy, sure. I get an average order value of $150. Like, no one's coming in and impulse buying my products, or very rarely. But what I do find is that for cheap...
Is that your leggings?
Yeah.
Are there any photos of you in leggings up there?
No. I do have men's leggings, but no, I don't wear them.
No?
Don't wear them. Never felt inclined to either.
No?
No.
I can't say I have.
No, I mean,
bike pants, if you're on, riding a bike and whatnot. But I haven't even done that, to be honest.
No, neither have I. And I don't judge. If you want to wear them, cool. Whatever. I just don't think I'd be comfortable in them.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't.
It's not. The other thing is, it's not like we live in a climate that's ever cold enough that I want to go for a run in full length. Anything.
No. I mean, my mates give me rubbish about how tight my jeans are, so I might be in that same kettle of fish anyway.
Possibly.
As the leggings crowd.
What are we talking about?
Advertising these days, 17 touch points.
Yeah, so, this building awareness and trust and engagement to create these custom audiences that we then try and get purchases from, we do that really cheap. And that's just part of the process. And it was lost along the way because you could just put an ad up for purchase conversions for such a long time and get them. It was really easy at the start of it. And that's because the user was a different user. They were new to the platform. They didn't know that it was an ad. They didn't know they were being retargeted to. They didn't know that they were actually being targeted to start with. They just saw it as a sign that, this product had been put in front of them and they were going to buy it. And we're all selling really low-end products like shirts for $30, hoodies for $40 or $50. So there was an impulse element to it. I love it. I want it. I need it. I'm going to get it. But the bigger price point items where the margins are, like what I'm selling with the leggings, it takes a little bit more consideration. So I can't afford to be wasting spend on touch points where I'm just introducing the brand to someone.
What do you like? What sort of, like with Meta being a global trainer and whatnot? Like, what sort of travel are you doing with them?
I'll probably travel 6 times a year with them.
Overseas or just around
Sometimes
Australia? Or?
overseas. I do a lot in Australia. Um, the overseas stuff became really hard during COVID. So they started getting us to do a lot of online stuff, which is just doesn't have the same impact. But it's starting to change again, where we're starting to get more gigs, we're starting to get more travel, more appearances, and things along those lines. So it looks like it's going back to normal, which is great.
And they're
So,
putting you up everywhere?
hey,
They're putting you up everywhere? It's not out of on your dime sort of thing?
no. Like it's you get paid to do it. They fly you around.
Oh,
They put you up in places. It's they're a big company and they're actually a really good company to work for. So for the negative press they get, it's not reflected in their employees. They're really lovely people and they're really good people to work with. Like you don't
I
feel
think
like
like this is a thing, right? Like, and this is where media, eh, this is social media and media, like traditional media in terms of like newspapers, that kind of thing. It's always been like big bold headlines get the people to buy them, and similar to online, except now we've got so many different people competing for that click
yeah,
that it's a race to the bottom of how negative or impactful that message could be. So when it comes to someone like Mark Zuckerberg or Meta and that kind of thing, it's like the more the more it impacts someone and makes them go, holy shit, what they're doing what with my data? Like it gets more clicks. So therefore, and why do they want clicks? Because once they're on their website, they're making money from advertising, just like Facebook, right? So I think it's a self-perpetuating sort of negativity that whole thing, because when I went to Menlo Park in San Francisco where Facebook's got their HQ, Meta, you certainly didn't get the vibe that there was anything sinister going on there at all.
no,
It looked like it was
no.
awesome, collaborative. It was fun.
And I always like you sort of, and you know what? They're going to have their haters. I don't care. I've got this is my opinion, but
Mm,
you've got this bloke who sits in his room or dorm in university and he creates something great. I don't care about what happened with the partner, all those sorts of things. At the end of the day, it's changed the world. It's brought the world closer together. It's reconnected a lot of us with people we haven't seen in a long time. And it gives us an ability to share, stories or emotions or photos or videos with people that we love around the world, even though we
that's
can't be
right.
there with them.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
definitely changed the way the world communicates with each other. Now, how is this bloke that's sitting in his dorm room in university back in 2000 and whatever know that someone in another country is going to exploit the data?
Exactly. Yeah.
And, it's almost like he built this to be fun, he built this to be social, and then it became exploited. And they're like, all right, well, we're going to have to fix that so that doesn't happen again. And then they'll go. And then they're like, oh, there's been another data leak. And it's not the fault of the bloke who made it. It's the fault of the shitheads that are always trying to exploit something
That's
good.
right.
And the
Yeah.
minority always ruin it for the majority.
And the
And
thing
I
is,
know,
with that, like the thing is, when they're attacking from the outside in, they're looking for any chink in that armor they could possibly exploit. So to try and build something that has this force field on it that is impenetrable
yeah,
is almost impossible. They got to be right once. Like you've got to be right when you're building that thing an infinite amount of times to keep them out.
exactly. Now you think of, you know, without getting into
Mm.
the whole thing about online security and things along those lines, but how could they have predicted when they started that company that it would be used for that purpose, to influence political campaigns, to leak data of people so that people can gain whatever it is they're trying to gain? Like, and to their credit, they fix it up and they just keep keeping on. Like,
Yeah.
I rave about it. It's helped change my life. It's been a mechanism to
Oh,
change my
same.
life, and
Yeah.
I'm not just talking about business. I'm talking about giving me a vehicle to be able to help people again, giving me confidence to be able to be in the public eye again. Because I was pretty ashamed when I got medically retired. I wouldn't work even under my own name because I've got such a unique surname. I worked under Nico, which was my nickname. When you have a look at my old stuff, it's always something by Nico, or the owner of the account is Nico. It's never my full name, and I would never have a photo of my face, nothing like that on anything, because I was just embarrassed, and I would sit behind a computer and try to figure out how to make ends meet for my family, and then all of a sudden, you started realizing that you can actually help people, and we don't need to be secretive about this. And that's when, I sort of got a bit of that confidence back again, and a little bit of that arrogance, which I think you need as a marketer as well. Like the arrogance that comes with the self-belief, the unwavering self-belief that you need sometimes, because it can be a very lonely game, especially when you're doing good. There's lots of people that want to tell you they're doing. There's lots of people that want to celebrate with you, but when you're doing bad, they're not there to help you. They're there to tell you, "I told you so." That this was just it was all fake money and it was all made up, and eventually this was going to happen. So it's always good.
Do you find, and this is where I'll challenge you on it, because I don't even know if it's like just because I choose to not listen to any of the hate, like, and it may still be there. I don't know, but I think you said it earlier. Eight out of 10 of your campaigns would not be successful. Now, there's a similar thing when I was about 19 years of age, when I left school and was trying to find my way. I did a modeling course. Clearly, it wasn't successful because I'm not a model. But one of the things they said to us there was, if you cannot take no for an answer, this game is not for you, because you'll hear 100 no's before you hear one yes. And it just hit me. I was like, that's interesting. And for whatever reason, that philosophy of life is you have to take those 100 shots before you get, the yes that you're looking for. And I think that had kind of put blinders on for me to not focus on any of the hate, to the point that, like, when I was coming up and I was struggling with finances and trying to find my way online, there was some hard days there, and it was probably very selfish of me. But I said to my wife, look, I can't take a look at the bank accounts. I can't focus on that. I need to believe what is possible, because if I can believe that and focus my energy there, I know I can get it. And I did that for quite a few years, and God bless her, like, we're still together, but it was an unfair pressure put on her. But I think, again, there's a period of time where I was feeling like really down in the dumps. This is probably 2019, and I was just surrounded by the wrong energy.
That time.
Yeah, the wrong energy. And I was like, you know what? I need to get back around guys that are absolutely crushing it. And that's sort of where I started connecting again with guys that were getting after it, with that focus again being on finding that energy that allowed me to get to that next level. Or it's a selfish way of looking at it, but I've always come at those sort of relationships that as not, what can I get from you? Never ever is it like I'm reaching out to this guy because I need this. It's like, if I see someone's success, I love it. I know what it's taken for someone to put in the hard work to get the result that they achieved, and I want to be there to celebrate and say, dude, that's epic. And equally, like, just keeping in contact with people when you don't hear from them for a while or whatever, just send them a quick message saying, hey, whatever. But I think, again, it's just for me personally, I've had dark days, still have them, but for the most part, I've been able to just refocus on where my focus wants to be. So I'm just asking for you, when you do, like, is that from personal experience? You have found that, like, when stuff's got hard, that you had people there that were trying to pull you back down and say, it's all right, mate, you're just one of us? Or were you, like, still inspired to break free and
I think that's where that arrogance comes. What I'm talking about is arrogance. It's a healthy arrogance. It's not an arrogance like you treat people like shit and you don't care about other people's feelings. It's an arrogance towards the haters and the naysayers and the people that say no. Now, there's not a situation in this online world that will ever compare to the situations that I used to face day to day. So this is my normal is different to other people's normal in terms of stresses. So I'll sometimes have clients come to me and they'll feel like their world's coming to an end because of something that's happened inside their business. To me, it's a nothing. Every problem has a solution. Let's just sit down, take the emotion out of it, and we'll fix it. And we do that. And that's the arrogance. I'm arrogant towards the emotion that's involved sometimes. If I have problems in my business, I'm like, that's cool. We'll fix it. If I have a team member that's causing problems, we'll fix it. So there's nothing that's ever a big enough problem that I actually worry about. I probably tend to have more, I still have, I guess mental health is always a work in progress. So I've still got people that I talk to. I've still got people that I listen to. I've still got people that I lean on for support. But I think that, fundamentally, it takes a lot to waver me now. And that's just from a life of embracing adversity.
Yeah.
And
I've always felt you're pretty consistent with your emotion, like, reaching out to you every now and again and having a chat. Like you seem like a pretty level-headed dude.
yeah, and I think sometimes that's to my own detriment. Like, it takes a lot to make me really happy, but it also takes a lot to make me really angry or upset. Like, it takes like an extreme. Whereas my middle ground is sort of where I sit most of the time, and I think that's just been trained into me, or it's just life experience. But I do find that it makes for riding ups and downs in businesses or criticism from people a lot easier to deal with. Like,
Man, I feel like I'm a bloody pendulum. I'm from one extreme to the other. I'll flip out at something, going off, and I'll be like the other way. I'm just like super excited. It's the wild ride.
Yeah, you do. You do get more excited than I do about things, and I love that, and I love that energy. And I'm not saying I don't want to be around people that don't have that energy. It takes a lot to get me to get those emotions either really high or really low, and whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. I do know that it makes life easier to manage from a business perspective. It's not like I don't find happiness in my kids, and I do feel happiness and I do feel sadness when they're upset and things along those lines. But
Yeah, of course.
your day-to-day, issues that crop up from work, I'm like, we'll just deal with it. Or, acknowledge that maybe you could have done things better, or tell someone, hey, look, no, there's nothing we could do about that. Like, that's just life. That's part of this game we play.
So with you being online, like we see so many opportunities to make money, and there's so many good ones that you could potentially jump on.
Yeah.
For you, like outside looking in, like you've had your elite brands where you're helping other brands with their marketing,
Yeah.
and you've had Gearbunch, and you've been so consistent with them. It's incredible. Like, how do you manage to not jump on, that new opportunity that's coming through, or how do you be discerning in what you jump on?
Goal setting. Like, I've got goals about where I want to be and what I want to do, and that's where I'm at. And that, again, that comes down to that arrogance. I'm like, even when people are saying it's not going to work, or it's a flash in the pan, or that phase is over, that trend's finished, I'm like, no, it's not. What would you know? Are you doing it? No, you're not. Like, I get people still to this day, for all the success that I've had and all the benefits that this online life has brought my family and I will still get punters when I walk down the street in my hometown. They'll be like, how's it going? And I'll be like, hey, it's going all right. Like, I never tell them, whether I'm doing great or not. Like, it's none of their business. And they'll be like, so you're still able to earn a living doing it? Like, this is legitimately what people are asking me. And it's because it's just an unknown to them. And I'm like, yeah, I get by. And I just move on. Whereas I could take that on and I could start to doubt myself and start to doubt the business and start to doubt what I'm doing is relevant, or I'm just arrogant and I just say, you know what, they don't know what the fuck I even do. Like, what would they know? And yeah, people either love me or hate me for it. It's the truth though.
Well, I'm saying, like my favorite quote is one of Arnie's, and it's literally, he says, "The worst thing I could be is just like everybody else." So, it's yeah, why fit in when you're born to stand out? And I think that's where you sort of come through. But it's pretty interesting, like particularly with your Gearbunch, to see you have that initial success when you first jump on Shopify. Because I've had these different successes with different price at different time, but never really built that brand. So I looked at that and think you've done an incredible job. So top job.
Yeah, thank you. And it's definitely had its ups and downs. I'm not saying it's like this massive cash cow that just keeps on pumping out. Like, it takes a lot of work, and the environment that we operate in is constantly changing, and you need to change with it. And you just got to embrace that. You can't just sit still. If that's when things will fade, and when you will go looking for the next shiny object, because it's not as much fun and there's not as much of a rush. But yeah. I find more satisfaction in challenges and solving or overcoming those challenges than I do from, the next shiny object that comes along. I'm not saying
I'm a dopamine junkie, I think.
Sorry?
I'm a dopamine junkie, I think. And that's where print on demand sort of always spoke to me, was like you're always in a different niche or selling a different product to different niches. And but yeah, how big is your team with Gearbunch that you're managing?
Gearbunch has 4 in it, not huge. Elite Brands has 14.
Lean. Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So over the years, we've been able to automate a lot of things that I used to employ people for. We've been able to automate, like, yeah, ridiculous. Then AI comes along, we can automate more. So it's really lean, Gearbunch. Elite Brands, I've got 14, but we've got 44 clients as well. So it's constantly growing. We signed on another 3 this week, and those 14 don't work full time. They've all got a certain amount of capacity, and they work anywhere from 10 to 20 hours each. But it gives me a really good broad range of different personalities and people with different cultural backgrounds and, different outlooks on different brands and, different strategies. So it's really good. But managing them has been probably the hardest part of growth for me, and setting up the business structure properly, an organisational chart, what's your values, what's your mission statement, all the things that when I was in the police, those things have been around for 100 years. The organisational structure, it was a hierarchical structure. There was rank, and you knew where you sat in that line, and you knew who you had to listen to, and you knew who you had to tell what to do. The mission, the values, that was decided long before I was even born. The systems, the structure, those were decisions made that had nothing to do with me. I just operated within them. So I was good at managing people because of the rank that I'd achieved, or asking people to do things that I needed them to do. But I was not very good at the organisational structure or system. So that's what I've worked really hard at for the last 6 to 12 months. And that's when we've seen the most growth. We've gone from 4 or 5 clients with just me working on it, wow, to, in excess of 40 with 14 times.
Good on you. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yes.
So with that success, what's your wealth play? Like your wealth goals? Like they always talk about shares and property and business. Do you have like goals in there? Like, this is how much I want in this particular space, or what's that look like for you?
I'm big on property. So commercial property is what I'm primarily interested in now. It just seems to carry a lot less risk and a lot less hands-on work. Residential takes a lot more. You've got people living in the houses all the time, more problems. There's more things you need to fix, more problems that need to be solved. Commercial's a lot different. A lot of it's on the businesses that are within the property. It's their responsibility for a lot of it.
They seem to look after it. We got our first commercial property last year, and I think 6 months ago, I think we had one contact with them. They were like, "This building's not up to standard. Do you mind if we refit it and repaint and add these fixings?" We're like, yeah, you can.
Yeah, sure. Just this once.
Yeah, just this once. But I often sit there going, is this really all there is to it? Like you find the opportunity, you find the right tenant, and through the graces of God, you set and forget.
So that's where I'm at, is, managing risk, having an investment portfolio that I know down the track is going to serve me well when I do decide to retire. I've also got a 5-year plan with the agency, which is why I've set up so many systems and strategies in there that for the first time in a long time, I can actually take time off work and know that the systems will still work and there are people and mechanisms in place for it to run without me, which is a nice feeling, a very nice feeling. But overall, just whilst I'm not oblivious to the fact that you need money to be able to retire and to live comfortably, I've also seen enough in my life to know that I don't want to just plan for what's going to happen in another 20 years. Like, we've got to enjoy what we've got now and have no regrets by the time we get to that age.
That's right.
I've seen, like I said, I'm not going to go into it now, but I've seen enough to know that, people don't always live to retirement. They might not get there. And if, work's work, but you've still got to enjoy now, and you've still got to spend time with your family, and you've still got to have good relationship with your friends and have time out away from work. And that's, I actually hate that hustle mentality.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
I find it so disingenuous, and I find it just to be bullshit, because it's just not the way that you should be spending your life. There are times in your life and times in my life, my work life, where I've had to have that mentality, but this all or nothing 24/7, eat, sleep, work, repeat, sounds like a shirt design. At the end of the day,
certainly not a life design, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's not a life design, but I know that I do have, I will set myself up well for my future, but it's not an all or nothing proposition, because if I can't enjoy this,
do you think you'll ever stop working, or because I think that for me personally, I think it's a level of interest. It's like you're just sort of like tinkering, and if you can do that and make money from the things that you're tinkering on, I think I don't know if there'd ever be a day that I'd
see, and you say I'm never going to stop working. Well, I don't even feel like I work.
That's right. Yeah.
So is this my work? Is this what we call my work? I'm sitting on a comfy chair on a beautiful day in my hometown in Yamba, talking to a mate on a podcast who's got a much more interesting background than me. But at the end of the day, is this really work?
What's behind me? Not life story.
Behind you, quite literally your background.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but I'm just like, I don't ever feel like I'm going to work. I don't ever feel dread about getting up and having to do what I do. There's not a single part of my business that I dislike doing. The parts I don't enjoy doing or don't find fun, I have someone else doing them now. It wasn't always that way, but whilst I don't feel like I'm doing work, then, what am I stopping? I'd probably be doing this anyhow.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. And look, the whole the hustle and grind mentality, I never, like I said, it took off when Gary Vee was pushing that years ago, right? And it never sat right with me, because I was like, the whole reason I got off the tools as a carpenter was so I could be there for my family. Yep. I don't want to go home, work from home, and just be grinding from the time you wake up until you go to bed. I'm like, that's That's what my dad did. And whilst I saw him all the time, I never got to spend any time with him. So I
No,
was always aware that,
my dad, he was gone before I woke up in the morning to work, and he'd be home after we'd had dinner
yeah,
or just for dinner. And then even on the weekends, he would work as well. And
yeah.
he's now 76, 77, and he's still doing the same thing. He doesn't know
Oh,
what
wow.
else to do. And I'm like,
Yeah,
I love him, but I don't want to do that.
yeah.
So,
No, I hear you. Dad he never
sorry,
came
not
to any school
77.
events.
Sorry, he's 67, not 77. I was at
60.
it a decade on.
Jeez.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
he's very
Oh,
close to retirement, but I'm just like, yeah, it's time. Like, I want to enjoy my kids while they're growing up.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, Dad never came along to any of the school events, never went on holidays with us. It was always there but never present. And that was the biggest motivator for finding something. And that's where print on demand really sort of spoke to me. I was like, there's very few moving parts here. Somebody else is taking care of the fulfillment.
fantastic business model.
Oh, it's
It's a
ridiculous.
fantastic business model.
Mm,
It's and you're exactly right. I don't miss birthdays. I don't miss Christmas. I don't miss any Easters. I don't miss any holidays. I can work from home if I need to. If one of my kids is not well or they're on school holidays. Um, I don't miss sporting events. Very occasionally I miss a sporting event, but you can't. I've
by
got three
choice.
kids. If you went to all of them, yeah,
Yeah.
some of
Yeah.
them are by choice, but more
Yeah.
often than not, I'm there. And it's
Yeah.
great because I can be, and I don't feel bad about it, and I don't have to ask anyone for permission to do it. I just do it,
Yeah.
which is
And
great.
my mates, and talk about social media, just being able to interact with your good mates. We're talking about going to this concert next week for Blink 182, and
Nice.
one of them was like, "Oh, you'll have to ask the boss for some time off," and I was like, "Yeah, okay." And that was like a bit of a piss take through the thread about that. So I shot a quick reel. I'll send it to you later. Um, about asking for time off from a self-employed person. So anyway, that was a bit of fun.
I,
Um,
I get it totally.
yeah,
And
but
most of the time it works. Like I'd say 90% of the time, I have that flexibility. There's that 10% of the time where sometimes I've just got to do what I've got to do because I can't rely on anyone else to do it. So sometimes that might mean sitting down overnight and doing something, or over a weekend, or there's not a holiday I don't go on where I don't take my laptop just in case something happens or they
yeah,
need me. But that's a small trade-off for the freedom that you get for most of the time.
absolutely. And I
Yeah,
think that's what it comes down to is that freedom, that choice. Like you've built something for you and your family and
yeah,
whatnot. Like, of course. Like, but when I was on the tools as a business owner, I was like, how is it all these people are going to and from the shops, just driving down the street? I'm like, what are they doing that allows them to do that?
yeah.
I'm working for myself and I don't have that freedom.
No,
And that was like another why I looked into starting ecom. And that was the old school ecom where I was, calling all the suppliers, had the
yeah.
warehouse picking and packing orders, like old school. Um, and then as soon as print on demand came through, I was like, I get it. Everyone's doing print on demand. They weren't.
It's not that there's a lot of lazy fucks out there and they don't work and they sit on the dole. They're the ones you're mostly seeing, mate.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Probably around the town that I was hanging around.
Yep,
Yeah.
mate.
But
Yeah.
so
That's
what
the
are you
reality.
doing for health like these days? Like fitness? Are you
I
still
still do all the
blogging?
training with the boys at football. I don't play
No.
anymore,
Yeah.
but still do all the training with them. Play touch football. I go to the gym 3 to 4 times a week. Play golf, and
You only started doing that.
I really look after what I eat. I look after
Yeah.
what I eat. I really look after myself by watching what I eat.
Yeah.
So, I don't eat any processed foods. My vice is I do drink a little bit, but not a stupid amount. And
I
that's
think this all or nothing mentality is difficult, and people would almost accuse me of being all or nothing, but I think it comes down to balance, right? Like you mentioned drinking. To be honest, like I drink every now and again as well, but I don't do it to excess, and I know for the most like it can be bad,
yeah,
but it's like well, if it's balanced, like, why not? Like,
There's
why
been
can't
points
you
in my
indulge in
life where I
this?
have been out of balance.
Mm,
And that was, during a time when my mental health wasn't great, and it makes you feel good. And you know why people become addicted to it.
yeah.
I never got to that point, thankfully, but I do know that, I didn't have that balance for a little while, and, worked pretty hard to maintain it. And I'm not saying this was a huge problem, but it was definitely a place I didn't want to be, where I didn't feel at my best, both mentally and physically. I just wasn't feeling great.
Was
So
this back when you're in the force that was happening,
that
or?
habit started then.
Yeah.
And then I fought that off with, doing the fitness and the fitness blog and stuff like that, because then there was this expectation that I was going to train every day, which I did.
Yeah.
So, that's how I got out of that, got out of that cycle. And then there's been times where, um, you know, binge drinking's massive in the police culture. And there'll be times where I'll slip back into that. But, it's just not where I want to be. I
Beer,
like
whiskey, wine,
bourbon.
bourbon. So
Yeah.
bourbon whiskey. I
Yeah.
mean, the thing is, like these days, like there's artisans in every corner. You look for any bloody thing that you could possibly
100%.
eat or drink, right? So it's like you got these amazing like alcohols that are popping up everywhere and foods, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
So
but I just didn't like the way it was making me feel. Like,
mm,
mental clarity, body, your body seems to deal with it a lot better when you're younger. As you get older, it doesn't deal with it. I'm not talking about being hungover. I'm just talking about energy levels. I'm talking about, inflammation in your body, those sorts of things. So, it's a
you wear a
big,
whoop strap or anything like that?
oh, what, sorry?
A, a whoop strap or an aura ring or
I don't
fitness
do any,
tracker?
I don't even know what that is. I wear a fitness tracker when,
Yeah.
it's called My Zone when I train.
Yeah.
So I can sort of see how much intensity I'm training with.
Mhm.
Um,
The
I
whoop
do,
strap, I think I've got it here.
what is
Yeah,
it?
I do. So the whoop strap, where is it? Over here. So it's just like a little band that you wear on your wrist, and it measures like recovery, like the heart rate variability, like skin temperature, and like it tracks so much. So if you really like data, they're good. But
Yeah,
I found that it was really good for ruining my sleep because it would tell you like you only had 65% of your sleep target last night, and you try to get it next night and you're 50%. It's like holy, that's the wrong way. And it's sort of
yeah,
like this perpetuating this spiral into a zombie. So I wore it for a month again over Christmas and just to get it like a level set. But it's got some interesting data in there because it knows when you're playing golf, it knows when you're doing all sorts of different activities without telling it. So you got to be careful what you're doing when you've got it on. Um, but but very very interesting insights. But another e-commerce company. It's got software along with it, and it's a subscription model. So you can see their marketing is crazy good as well. Um, but yeah. So when it comes to drinking, you have a few drinks, and straight up you see how your recovery suffers
yeah,
and stuff like that.
yeah,
It's actually really interesting.
yeah. And I'm not. Yeah, look, that's probably where I do a bit of I do meditate most days. That high intensity exercise is where I get the that dopamine hit. That's where I get
Yes,
that
sir.
from. Cold
Yeah.
showers, and I don't do ice baths. I just don't have access to it. Nor do I feel that way inclined to get it installed at home. Um,
I think we'll go down that path. Carly got me a recovery ice bath for Christmas, and she keeps walking back through the house with like bags of ice. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's $5 each bag. Like this is like that expense on that is ridiculous. And so she talked me into getting a deep freezer, which I had never wanted to get because I was like, we're not going to use that. But now I think the next purchase is an ice machine because we just can't keep up with the amount of ice that we need
are
for
you
the bloody.
actually doing the cold plungers now?
Done it a few times, like certainly not anywhere near the depths of the freezing that Joe Rogan puts himself through, but
No.
it's certainly it it's cold when you jump into it, and you feel great afterwards.
Yeah.
And particularly like you'd benefit like after the high intensity stuff, you just feel amazing once you've done that and you've been able to cool down, and it's great. I'm not going to enjoy it in winter, but
Yeah. And look, what else do I do? Supplements. I do take a lot of different supplements to, I do get some,
Such
I do,
as?
sorry.
Such as?
I take a methylated B. I did a blood test that talks about, that looks at the way that your body methylates different vitamins and minerals, and my body struggles with vitamin B. It doesn't break it down properly, so I take a methylated B. I take a vitamin D. My body doesn't absorb it through my skin, which is normally what you get from the sun. So I always had a deficiency in that. So I take a liquid form of that absorbs under my tongue. I take a zinc and magnesium because they're great just for, everyday health, especially as we get older. And I take, what else do I take? Creatine.
Creatine.
So, creatine's had so much anecdotal and also scientific research behind it for such a long time that it aids with recovery and performance. And
Yeah.
I just, it's cheap as, it's tasteless, and might as well take it.
Protein powders at all?
I try and eat mostly whole foods now. I went through a phase where I was on the protein bars and the protein powders like crazy. But I found that, having the whole foods just makes me feel a hell of a lot better. And I don't have as many sweet cravings now that I don't have those protein powders and bars, because they are really sweet. Even though they're not got no sugar in them, they're just really sweet. So, it's just not something that I have day to day. I'm not adverse to them. Like, I'm not like, oh, they're horrible, don't ever take them. Like, if you like them, enjoy them. And I'm more than happy to have a protein shake or a protein bar, but just day to day, I don't anymore. The other point is I found that the more processed the food was, the worse I felt. Even if the macros of it were good, if you look at the processing of it and what's actually in it, aside from the protein, carbs, and fats, it's not amazing for you.
Yeah, it's the addiction factor is quite interesting, considering that, particularly with alcohol, you have a drink at night, you find yourself looking for that drink, whether you're cooking dinner or whatever it is. Like, there's that craving there.
And a specific day of the week, like it's Friday, like I'm gonna have a drink.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, no, like I've got a nice whiskey shelf here, and I track my calories and macros and whatnot, and make sure I hit a certain macros every day on that. But when I'm feeling naughty and I walk past that shelf, I'll sometimes have a whiff. And that whiff turns into a swig, and there's like, but then as you do that, the next night's like, you feel naughty again. I'm going to have another whiff. Well, no, sip. So, but it's a slippery slope. Same with like sweets and whatever. If you're, it's so easy. It's so easy just to want to listen to that, whatever it is, that little inhibition is going, mate, just a little one, just a sip or just a taste. It's same with chocolate. Chocolate's bloody terrible for it. All those things. But Dan, dude, I mean, I could talk to you for hours anyway, but you probably got other work that you need to get done. So
I'm just happy to be on here and have a chat. And if someone picks something up out of it, then great. If not, I've had a good chat with a mate.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one thing with this as well. Like, it's an excuse to reach out to your mates for sure, to have a bit of a chat.
Yeah, and just have a chat. And it's working online. That's probably the other thing. It's pretty insular, and I would encourage you to, people that are listening, to connect with other like-minded people. It doesn't have to be in person. I struggle to find people in my hometown that do what I do or understand what I do. So meeting, or connecting with people online and just having chats with them, it's great. It's a great outlet, and it's definitely needed. Otherwise, you feel like you're very lonely and very very misunderstood until you find those other people that think the same way as you.
That's right. I mean, I can't remember how long we'd spoken for online before we actually met in person, but I think it's like for you around the world as well. Like you meet these super interesting people that you get along with, like they're one of your best mates, and like the energy or banter that you're having in those conversations is just as you would a mate. And literally the only thing that you're learning about them when you catch up is how short they are.
Is that a shot at me about my height?
No, definitely not.
Fuck off. You're just a giant. I'm like
I
5'10",
know,
and I
know.
feel like a midget around you.
Yeah. No, but like that seriously, like you certainly like height is all you're learning about someone. Like everyone's sitting down when they're talking to each
Oh,
other.
I get what you
Yeah.
mean. I get what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the banter's there. Like when you catch up in person, you're just,
Yeah.
shit talking each other as you normally would and
Yep. I'm hearing you.
just looking at a different perspective, So
Yep.
but
And what
anyway.
they wear.
And what they don't wear. I mean, who knows what's down the bottom there?
No, we're like the news presenters, mate. We're just sitting here in our undies.
Yeah. So what are you doing today? What's plans for the weekend? I'll
Uh,
stop the recording now.
okay.